Okay, now that we have our two images in Photoshop created, and you can see here there's the background image and then the top image, we need to save both images and then import them into Flash so we can animate the scene and create our lighting effects. Now before we save these, let's reduce the size. So I'm going to do an image size, and I'm going to reduce the image to about 750 pixels in height, and that'll change it to 495 pixels wide. We'll click OK, and you can see that now if I zoom into 100%, it's still a fairly large image, so that will be better. Okay, so we've now reduced the size, and let's save it now. So first of all, we'll save the light image on top, File, Save As, and we'll save it to the desktop, and we'll say this is a JPEG, and we'll call it bathroom scene light, and we'll save the JPEG settings at 9, and we'll click OK. Alright, now I'll turn the eyeball off on the top layer so we can see the bottom layer, and we'll save that one. So File, Save As, and we'll save it to the desktop as a JPEG, and this one will be named bathroom scene dark. Okay, so we have both images saved to the desktop, and now we'll switch over to Flash. In Flash, I'll open up a new ActionScript 2 document, and the first thing I'm going to want to do, I'm going to want to set the dimensions of the Flash movie to equal the size of the graphics that we're going to import. So what I'll do is I'll do a File, Import to Library, and let's import our two pictures, and then we'll double check the size. Alright, desktop, there's the dark scene, so we'll import that, and then File, Import to Library, and we'll get the light scene. We'll open up our library, there it is, and we'll drag out the dark scene onto the stage. Alright, so there it is, and this dark scene, if I select it and I click the eye for info here, we can see it's 495 pixels wide and 750 pixels tall. So I will click on this gray background and then go over to the property window and change the dimensions of the document to match. So height is 750 and the width is 495, and I'll hit enter for both, and now the document matches the image. So let's do a fit in window, and you can see now all we have to do is move our image into position, and then we'll be set. Now to do this, there's an easy way to do it. Just click the info button and change the X and Y to zeros. So I'll do 0 and 0 and hit enter, and now we're registered. So there's our background. I'll change this to BG for background, and we'll make a new layer. So I'll click on the little icon for new layer, and now on the new layer we will open up our library again, and this time we'll drag out the light scene, and we'll also set this light scene to X and Y 0. So that'll put it into position. Alright, and for this light scene, for this to work and us to be able to animate this light scene, we're going to need to select it and then do a modify, convert to symbol, and we're going to convert it to a movie clip. So I'm going to change this to a movie clip. I'll call it MC Room Light, and I'm going to change the registration point, make sure the registration point is not in the center but in the upper left hand corner. Click OK, and now we've basically turned this light image on top into a movie clip. When I select it in the property window, it says it's a movie clip, right? Instance of MC Room Light. Now, being a movie clip, we can do things to it nice and easily, like motion tweens and alpha transparencies and all kinds of things. So that's why I converted it to a movie clip, because I'm going to animate with it right now. So I'll just do a Control Z and a Control Z to get it back into position. And so now we're ready to start animating. So I'll go out here to frame 80 and I'll click and drag and put a couple of keyframes. So I'll hit F6 on the keyboard to insert 2 keyframes. And now we have basically a timeline animation. So we'll say that this top image of the bathroom scene, we're going to select it, and I'm going to go over here to Color Effect, which is in the Property window, and I'll change the style to Alpha, and I'll change the Alpha down to, let's see here, 0. So now I can't see it. All I see is the bottom image, the background image, right, which is the background basically dark image, right, because the alpha is set to 0, and so it's basically completely transparent. So then I'll go out to, let's say, frame 15 and hit F6, put a keyframe, and then maybe to frame 25, and then maybe I'll right click, insert keyframe, and here I'll select this top image, right, and which is my movie clip, MC Room Light, and I'll change the alpha, and let's alpha it up all the way to, let's say, 75. So now on this keyframe it's invisible, on this keyframe it's invisible, and on this keyframe it's visible. So now all we need to do is create a motion tween from point A to point B, but to do it I'm going to use a classic tween. So I'll right click in between the 2 keyframes and create classic tween, and now if I scrub the playhead you'll see it fades in, right? So there is the light scene fading in, and it looks like light has entered the room, right? And then I'll stay a while, put another keyframe here, F6, and then another keyframe here, F6, and on this second keyframe we're going to make it disappear again. So we select it. Once it's selected, the movie clip is selected, we go to the Property window and change the alpha down to 0. That makes it disappear again, right? And so now we need to create our motion tween between point A and point B. So we'll just right click, create motion tween, and oops, that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to right click on it and create a classic tween. So I did Control Z on my keyboard twice, and so now it fades out. So if you run into trouble and make a mistake, just use Control Z repeatedly to do edit undos. So there we go, we hit Control Enter, and now you can see there's the light coming on, and you can see there it goes, light comes on, and notice the little flash. That little flash at the end is this one keyframe here on frame 80 where the top movie clip is visible 100%, but it functions a lot like, let's say, a flash of lightning, right? That's kind of cool. Let's do this tween, this classic tween, one more time with the top image of the light bathroom fading in and out. So once again, you can see we can't see it right now because of this top image. The alpha is set to 0. So what we'll do is we'll put a keyframe, let's say here, F6, and it's invisible, and then another keyframe, F6, and this time we want to make it visible. Select the movie clip, take the alpha, and take it up, let's say. This time we'll go all the way up to 90. So now from point A, the first keyframe, it's invisible. On the second keyframe, it's visible. Right click in between, create classic tween, and now it fades in, and then we want it to stay a while, and then so I'll put another keyframe here, F6, and then another one, F6, so that we can create the next tween from this keyframe to this keyframe. Now on this keyframe, the second one, first I need to select the movie clip, take the alpha down to 0, and then right click and create a classic tween. Now the timing is everything in these animations, so you might find that this is happening too quickly and you need to add more frames. If you want to do that, I just click and drag and then hit F5 on the keyboard to insert regular frames, right? And so I can add some timing in there. I can do that here too. And if I want to add more here, I can, just to make the time a little bit longer. And so now fades in, fades out, fades in, fades out, and then there's a little flash, right? Now, that looks pretty good. So now, this animation right here, I want to copy this whole animation, this entire thing, and paste it into a movie clip. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So this, right now we have this timeline animation, and this is great, but what happens if we want to put, let's say, buttons on some of the items in the bathroom, like the towel, right? Well, maybe putting those buttons on top of this timeline-based animation is not the best way to do things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this top keyframe here on layer 2 on the upper left corner, and then I'll go right down here to the bottom keyframe, bottom right, hold down the shift key while you're doing it, and that selects all the frames. And now what I can do is I can right click on this highlighted blue area and copy frames, and now I'm going to paste them all into a movie clip. So I'll say insert new symbol, make sure it's a movie clip, and I'll call it MC bathroom, and I'll click OK. And now I have this blank movie clip with nothing in it. Notice I'm no longer in scene 1, I'm in the bathroom. All I need to do now is select this blank keyframe here on the timeline, and then right click on it and go down to paste frames, and it pastes in all those frames plus the 2 layers. So now I have all of this animation inside of this movie clip. So I can go back to scene 1, and in scene 1 I can actually remove all of the animation. So I'll highlight everything in scene 1, right click, remove frames. I can delete the top layer if I want, and I can change this to just background. And now I'll put in a keyframe here, F6, and you can see that it looks like we have nothing here, right? Insert keyframe. It looks like we have a blank document, right? Blank stage, empty keyframe, nothing, right? Wrong. Look in the library. In the library, there is my bathroom scene, MC bathroom. I can just drag it out, and that entire animation is in this movie clip, right? If I double click on this movie clip, there's our animation. So back to scene 1, I can just play it to show you. Notice there it is playing. My animation is working. My lighting effects are taking place. And I can just take this and put this right in the middle. It's covering the stage. And so now I have just this whole animation right on this one movie clip on this scene right here. And now I can make a new layer for my buttons